I studied at University of Witwatersrand, finished my architecture degree in 2008, and did an urban design degree which I finished last year. Well, I think it's important to note that I didn't start my practice after graduating. I actually started when I was still studying, started in my honours year, and yeah, I've been pretty much going since then. Also throughout my studies I worked for Silvio Rec and carried on working for him for 5 years after graduating from architecture. There's a phenomenon that I'm finding worldwide that established firms can act as incubators for smaller practices. And Silvio's office was a fantastic incubator for a number of smaller creative initiatives, many that he actually didn't know about. But he was a fantastic boss, in that he gave individuals freedom to work in the time that they wanted and in the way that they wanted. I'm of the very strong belief that the only real role that architecture can play in a fraught society, in a difficult society like ours, is in the production of public space. So I think well-crafted, quality public space is pretty much the only tool that we have to help society engage difference. And I've guided my practice towards finding clients, private clients, who have the power and the will to create public space. So my clients lately have really been a lot of NGOs, people with a public agenda but with private funding. And I think I want to take that idea quite a lot further into the hardcore corporate world, where I believe that office buildings, corporate buildings can do a hell of a lot more to improve the quality of public space in our cities. The best architects in South Africa are engineers that work on industrial buildings with no constraints. I find most of my inspiration from industrial buildings in far out places like Germiston or Allroad or Stormel or Industria, where engineers have created purpose-built structures to house processes that are essentially removed from the human condition. And I find that time upon time they stumble upon incredible spaces and incredible tools that if applied to more human-centered programs could create amazing architecture. So I think, as a general answer, I think the best architecture in our city is industrial architecture. I've always loved the public swimming pools in Johannesburg. So there's a number of public swimming pools, from Brixton to Zoo Lake to further out in the West Rand where I'm from, where these spaces were incredibly beautifully crafted to create quite sensitive thresholds, to create communal space, quite a few beautiful things, and quite a lot of amazing details, many of them being Art Deco. So we're in the Lutheran Community Outreach Foundation's Recreation Centre. We were appointed to design and realize this building about 2 years ago, and true to our nature of working for free and going out, pulling out all the stops to try and realize some kind of public ambition, we put everything into a pitch. I was still working for a firm at the time, and thankfully the board of the NGO liked what we were proposing. And what we said was, let's free this amazing space and make a glass box that floated like a lighthouse in Hillbrow. Once we'd been appointed, we got to know the various creative programs that would be housed in this program. Each of them had their own creative director, and we essentially had quite a well-rounded board of clients that would review and give feedback on each one of our design iterations. What we have now is a very pragmatic structuring of spaces, where on the ground floor you have the computer center or digital library, and which also feeds into an existing youth center, which is in an existing part of the building. On the first floor, we have the biggest floor plate, because that was the only space we could accommodate this, and that's the dance studio that we're in now. So it's a 100 square meter space that houses both a dancing program but also a music program. And then on the top floor, we have various offices, administrative offices, and a counseling room. I originally proposed this building actually as a portal frame structural steel building. Somehow, via the grapevine, we came across an LSF fabricator called TrueMod, who basically convinced us that LSF would be the right system to use. Light steel frame is kind of like a house of cards, so it's a system of panels, as opposed to structural steel framing, which is a system of columns and beams. So the envelope of the building is one of those panels. It's essentially a thin skin of light steel framing that's either clad on the outside with white chromadeck or with polycarbonate. Our material choice for the exterior cladding was entirely governed by our kind of need to create a building that was a landmark in Hillbrow, but also a lighthouse. So at night, on a time switch, this entire portion of the building lights up like a lighthouse and invites people in. The intended construction period for this building was 3 months. But there were quite a few unforeseen engineering challenges, essentially that related to the substructure. So there was no documentation except in Germany in the archives of what these beams actually, what kind of reinforcing these beams were holding. So that set us back. We had to do a lot of X-raying and digging. That set us back about 3 months. So we ended up with about a 6-month construction period. One of the biggest challenges with the building, something that we couldn't have predicted, was the acoustic problems. So when there's a dance class busy on top, it's very difficult to have a computer class below. This really relates to the absolute construction of the building, which is a steel frame, which essentially turns the bottom space into a drum. And we're looking at a variety of ways of solving that problem, but that really was a massive learning curve and something I won't do again. My favorite part of the building, which was unforeseen, or which was a happy accident, was the way that the building interacts with sunlight. A number of material choices which were fairly random or simplistic ended up creating quite special reflections of the context. The dance studio itself changes throughout the day with natural light. It's an incredibly beautiful space.